Yo, what's up? My name is Patrouski, and Alpha Pokemon were added to PokeMMO back on October 14th, 2022. And when this update came out, there was a lot of concern and worry that these Pokemon would actually destroy the economy of PokeMMO. For those who don't know, Alpha Pokemon essentially introduced a sort of constant stream of 2x31 and other good IV Pokemon. From that point on, you could get a lot more wild 3x31, 4x31 Pokemon caught, etc, etc. 2x31 was the guaranteed IVs for catching any Alphamon. So worst case scenario, if you catch an alpha Pokemon, you were usually making like 40 to 60k just as a breeder, even if you're disregarding the fact that it's an alpha. Now, I'm currently recording this in late February on the 19th of February 2023, so it's been around 4 months or so since alphas have been released. So I thought this was a good time to sort of check the GTL, check the economy, and see how things are doing. I'll be figuring out the previous price mostly based on memory, so give me a little bit of leeway and charitability on that. That would be appreciated. Now, it's important to note that for this video, there is a huge difference between destroyed and affected. It is obvious that alphas have affected the economy, but to what extent is it destroyed? To what extent, how much damage or quote-unquote damage may have been done to consider it destroyed, quote-unquote? Let's go ahead and check it out. Let's go ahead and look over to the GTL. We'll look up some 2x31 Pokemon for different age groups. That'll give us a good idea of how things are sitting. Here's my current search criteria if you're interested. I'm currently in the monster age group. I will be searching for males. That's a great way to get an understanding of the economy because males are used as the breeder since the female decides the species. If you search all genders, you'll end up seeing things like this Kangaskhan. Now, Kangaskhan is cheap because it's a female-only species. You can't use Kangaskhan to breed with other Pokemon, so if you're breeding a Kangaskhan, you're always going to get Kangaskhan. So that's not really an accurate price check, so sorting by males only is going to make it more accurate to the current state of the economy. Now, 2x31, 31 HP, 31 attack, male monster A group, 46k, 47k, 50k even. This is quite healthy, even a little high. Pretty interesting to see this. Maybe people are breeding a lot of monster Pokemon at the moment currently. Let's keep going on. Now, I'm not going to cover every single age group, but I will try to cover most of the important ones and most of the important stats, and even the least important stat in each of those age groups. So once again, 31 attack and speed, male monster A group, really nice range. We're looking for that 40 to 60k range. If you're in between that range, you're healthy. If you're dipping below like 30k or so, things can get down to like 35k, 32k, and that's also fine. If things start dipping below 30k for a 2x31, that's when things get a little red flaggy, a little worrisome, but it could be okay as well. Depends on the IVs, depends on the age group. A good example of a shockingly cheap one that kind of deserves to be this cheap and should be this cheap is any sort of 31 attack Chaos age group Pokemon. There's very few Pokemon within the Chaos age group that need that physical attack. And even cheaper, this might be the cheapest search you could do. If you search a 31 special attack and a 31 attack Chaos age group Pokemon, very few of these Pokemon are going to need the attack stat, and even fewer of them are going to need both the attack stat and the special attack stat. It's a very niche breed of a type of Pokemon that needs this, so it's a pretty cheap price. And then once again, we only see like 27-30k. This is actually pretty good, surprisingly so. Maybe I'm just checking the economy at a very good time frame, but this is surprisingly healthy. I've definitely seen 2x31s with these terrible age groups and stats get as low as 15 to 19, 20k or so, and that's when things get dangerous. Once 2x31s are reaching 15 to 20k, that's a little worrisome. Now, it's also important to note that there will be niche cases of Pokemon like Cryogonal that have just really cheap Pokemon at the moment. If we look up a 2x31 Cryogonal, it's like 8k for those two stats. Now, obviously, Cryogonal doesn't need attack at all. What if we do special attack plus HP? Let's see if the price of this has recovered. It actually has decently so. Still, a 2x31 Cryogonal with two important stats that it needs, only being 13k, is incredibly cheap. A lot of Cryogonals were caught recently during the Lunar New Year event, and it's not a very desired Pokemon, maybe even one of the least desired Pokemon in PokeMMO. It's a pretty interesting and niche NU Pokemon that I do think actually has a place, kind of, but yeah, it's just got very overflooded in the economy, very oversaturated at the moment, so that you could say the Cryogonal economy was definitely destroyed. Even though it was destroyed, I do think it will recover and rebuild. It'll just take a couple months. Thankfully, Cryogonal is a pretty rare spawn in the wild, other than them being flooded into the game from the Lunar New Year economy. So honestly, it should be a pretty decent recovery time, even given the low demand. I'd say give it 4 to 8 months and it should be good. Alright, but let's keep moving on to other aid groups, and I do want to be checking 2x31s mostly because that's going to give us an accurate price estimate. But before we do that, let's actually check one more. Let's check 31 special attack, 31 speed for monster. This is not a very desired thing, but wow, you still see a 50k price. Now this has been listed for 8 days and it still hasn't sold, but that usually means that's kind of a good thing. If that usually means that all of the cheaper ones have been bought out, so there is a demand for it. Okay, let's check a couple more aid groups. If we do water A, 31 special attack, 31 HP, we see 40k. Once again, pretty solid. That makes sense. We do see a lot of alpha listings here, though, I'll be honest. So we see alpha Ozumarill, alpha Floatzel. Once the alphas start, I mean, I guess the cheapest alpha is 60k. That's pretty healthy. What about the bug aid group? This one can be a cheaper one. It depends. This one can get really over flooded. You know what? 37k. Once again, slightly below that healthy range. You do want to see it 40k plus, I'd say. But 37k, all this is temporarily. Everything that's below 40k has only been listed for 6 hours or less, so you know that they're selling. It's a good sign, guys. Alright, but let's just quickly go through some more egg groups. Let's go ahead and do it like this. Let's do HP and speed, since everything is going to need that. Let's go through each egg group pretty quickly. Flying, we see 44k. Field egg group, we see 38k. It's a little low, but that's still pretty healthy, right? It was pretty temporarily listed. Fairy egg group, 38k to 40k we see. Plant egg group, we see 40k. Humanoid aid group, we see 50k for the cheapest there for males. Water Sea, we see 50k. Mineral, we see 38k, 39k or so. Chaos, we see 50k. I am in shock. I'm going to be honest. Water B, 38k or so. That's the Magikarp aid group. It makes sense. We can check the price of Dittos. Dittos are obviously not really an aid group. It's just Dittos. 41k or so. That might even be a little cheap. That's pretty interesting. And then the Dragon aid group. Once again, the Magikarp aid groups. This was such a farmed thing by newer players. Definitely ends up getting a little cheaper. But I'm in shock. I actually thought personally that the economy would have been affected a lot more in a lot more of a harmful way. Maybe it's because player count is a little lower at the moment, so I guess maybe there's less Pokemon flooding in and there's still enough of a demand for breeding where it's actually evening out. There were so many Pokemon being caught and so few Pokemon being bred during the Lunar New Year event that I was actually a little worried for the economy. I always said and I always advocated during the release of alphas that it should be fine, it should even out over time. Don't stress, don't worry. The developers know what they're doing. And I think a huge thing with it is one guaranteed 2x31s seem like a lot or whatever, and giving a player a guaranteed 2x31 seems like a lot, but it's actually not that insane. And here's the reason why. You could catch one guaranteed 2x31 Pokemon every 6 hours or so. IRL was the sort of thing, and it took a couple minutes, took a little bit of time to do. And what essentially happened is if you just farmed Pokemon for those 6 hours, the average rate of a 2x31 Pokemon is 1 out of 78, I believe, off the top of my head. So you end up catching around 30 or 40 Pokemon an hour on really high quantity grinds. So you would end up getting a 2x31 every 2 hours is probably the math, right? So if you were just farming 2x31 Pokemon for those 6 hours, you would have already gotten 3 2x31 Pokemon. But if you just logged on for that alpha, you only get the 1. Now, obviously, farming for 6 hours is a lot more difficult than just jumping on for 5 minutes, but I think it is important to note that those players who are grinding, there's already so many IVs coming to the game, and the way the IVs are balanced in PokeMMO around the breeding system, around the braces, I think it all works out fantastically, and it should cover things appropriately as long as people are still breeding, as long as it's profitable, as long as there's benefits to breeding, and as long as good IV Pokemon are still coming into the game at a decent rate, everything should be okay. That's my general synopsis. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it. It helps me out tremendously. And make sure to subscribe to the channel for daily PokeMMO and other Pokemon MMO type content. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Peace. Yo, if you're watching this, that means you watched the entire video. So first things first, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And if your name is on this list, that means you go above and beyond and support the channel and allow me to do what I do every single day. Thank you so much and have a great day.